This is an update to a story we brought you. An illegal precinct, cops in Baton Rouge taking individuals into a warehouse, torturing them, sexually humiliating them, threatening them with weapons. Put up the picture full mask. Now we have multiple lawsuits, multiple allegations, not just one. In an update, a set of lawsuits now have been filed against the Baton Rouge Police Department, some of its officers, and the city. These lawsuits reveal shocking allegations of physical abuse, torture, sexual humiliation by police officers against Black individuals in custody. Keep that picture up. You're looking at an illegal police precinct. It was not on the books. They took individuals there, tortured them, and many times just let them go. Well, one person decided to file a lawsuit detailing location, officers, tactics, and it blew the case wide open. Both complaints provide details of heinous abuse within a location referred to as the Brave Cave. That's what they called it, which is described as a torture warehouse or black site. It was where certain cops took detainees, cut off their communication with the outside world, denied them of their legal counsel, and then subjected them to physical beatings. Now remember, your right to legal counsel is absolute, okay? It's constitutional. The officers named in these suits include former officer Troy Lawrence Jr., Matthew Wallace, Joseph Carboni. Brown's suit also mentions an unnamed female officer, and it also mentions the police chief. Now, there's a narrative with the police chief. Now, he is being sued, obviously, in his official capacity. But the police chief is the one who has been firing these corrupt cops, putting them under investigation. But the city council has tried to obstruct his justice against bad cops. And it got so heavy for the chief that he decided to break protocol and address council. We brought this to you. Let me remind you, here it is.
14 police officers were terminated. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 resigned under investigation. And then there's appeals. And you know what you do? You strip my funding. Are you gonna pay the attorney all the money that I already owe them for the bad cops that the Civil Service Board, where we're gonna be here tomorrow, and none of y'all gonna be here. And y'all sitting here trying to deal off these people's emotions, and some of y'all the problem. Jen Rocker, you sit there, defund the police department's budget from a legal standpoint, and then come here because I don't have legal representation and I gotta play lawyer to fight these bad actors. Let's talk facts. Let's talk facts. And then what you do? Then you go and you appoint people to the Civil Service Board that have direct ties to the union. There are 5 people on the Civil Service Board. What's wrong with good law-abiding citizens? You putting people on the Civil Service Board with direct ties to the union and wonder why they reverse the decisions that I make. I've been quiet, but I'm not gonna be quiet no more. Where were you when they called my kids gangbangers? Where were you? You know about the pictures when they called my black boys gangbangers and I prayed for them. When the former chiefs of police sit down and share pictures of me and my girlfriend and I prayed for them. Where were you, Mocha? When they went to Texas, to the camp, and called me because I was trying to bring reform in this police department. Where were you then, speaking up for them? Don't sit here and play like you don't know about this group of body that's trying to force the mayor to sit there and fire me for lies and say I only discipline white folks, which is a lie. Don't pretend like you don't know that. Don't pretend like you don't know that. Talk about my little black kids, and I prayed for y'all.
Put up the members of council he was referring to at the time. These are the council members in question. Naturally, all of them obviously are not against him. If so, he would not have a job right now. but enough of them have been able to consolidate their power, defund his budget so that when he's personally sued, he has no remedy. They also decided to appoint their friends to the Civil Service Review Board, their friends who are affiliated with the police union. They only have 5 members on this board. So they're stacking the deck so that this review board can rule against him. Understand the game that they're playing with him. So he decided to do exactly what you just saw. I applaud that amazing police officer. In Jeremy Lee's case, I want to remind you how gruesome it was. He recounts how officers, Lawrence and Wallace, apprehended him without probable cause in January, brought him to the illegal precinct, the warehouse, and then subjected him to severe beating, resulting in injuries that required hospital treatment. While in custody, all the officers involved turned off their body-worn cameras. They proceeded to handcuff Lee, forced him to the ground, and then engaged in humiliating him, removing his pants to act as if they're searching him. Both officers verbally abused Lee during this ordeal. When Lee posed the question, why was he being detained? Officer Wallace responded, "Because I said so," end quote. After the unnecessary and illegal strip search, Lee was taken to the Brave Cave where he was subjected to the physical abuse. Footage from the body camera shows officers restraining Lee on a paved street. And during their search, pulling down his pants. At a certain moment, one of the officers threatened to use force, saying, quote, "I'm about to bat the living crap out of you," end quote, in an attempt to prevent Lee from resisting. Lee, in response, denies resisting, challenges the officer by saying, "Bat me then," end quote. The suit claimed that not only did the officers and top brass know about the warehouse's use for detainee abuse, but they also made coordinated efforts to shield knowledge of its existence from their very own boss. One day, after the news of the Brave Cave became public, the Baton Rouge mayor shut the facility down, and Lawrence resigned that same day. The FBI has now opened up a civil rights investigation to examine whether members of the police department abused their authority. Now, you can't say people care about the Constitution when they are willingly violating the very basic tenets of that structure. All of these things are more than office violation. This is kidnapping. This is torture. This is terror. This is the KKK. This is what they would do. In 2006, a report came out from the Department of Justice, and it said one of the greatest domestic threats right now in America, white supremacists becoming members of law enforcement. Not many people paid attention to that report. I think we are now paying attention to that report. Francesca, thoughts?
I mean, this is a wild case, right? And I think the most interesting part about this, sadly, the idea that a police department has a black site, the way that the United States military had has black sites to torture supposed terrorist suspects. Somehow that is the least surprising part of this story. I know, isn't that wild? But hey, we live in the United States of America, and we have seen the body cam footage when it is on, right? And we understand that beating people is nothing new. It is awful, and I'm so glad that these lawsuits are going forward. And my heart goes out to their families and these victims. It does not matter what the crime they are accused of. No one should be treated like that. But this police chief calling out the city council like that and openly saying, look, I understand that the buck does stop with me. However, and I'm not clear, it seems like he was not aware of these black sites or that this was happening, and saying that I'm the fall guy effectively, and you're leaving me without any budget to actually fight this, and then appointing the union. I mean, he's calling out the union. He's doing what police officers are told never to do, right? Which is, like the thin blue line, right? Of the code, what is it? The code of conduct, the blue code or whatever the code is. Doc, help me out. It's basically where, you do not call out any of your fellow officers no matter what they've done. And here's this chief doing the exact opposite, finally doing the right thing. I was trying to read into it, like, is he, what is he doing here? Is this bad faith? Like, how does this work? But no, it seems like you're exactly right. They're trying to make him and only him the fall guy for a broader problem and just kind of wrap this thing up and forget it ever happened. Yep. And I hope that neither these victims and plaintiffs nor the police chief let them do that.
It's so interesting because some progressives in Louisiana alerted me to this police chief and said they support that police chief because he's on the up and up.
Right.
And he has been fighting behind the scenes, right? He never came public like that before, but he was so effective in his leadership that progressives were supporting the man. And it was a progressive that tagged me on social media and said, Doc, this is the guy I was telling you about.
Yes.
And I heard that speech. Listen, and the phrase you were looking for is blue shield.
Yeah.
Obviously to him, the only shield that he's concerned about is the shield of right and wrong. And he laid it out. The man actually went against the union, went against his police officers. He's fired roughly 25 to 30 and has them under criminal investigation.
Wow.
You can't ask for too much more. And then he gave us more by putting his mouth, money, body, family, everything is now on the chopping block in front of the world.
Yeah.
And how are these individuals going to respond? We will bring you updates as the story develops.